Hey, what's up guys? Thanks for tuning in. In this video, I wanted to talk to you guys about antibiotics. And in particular, which antibiotics I have been stocking in my medical preps, especially since everything with the coronavirus has been happening. It's just so scary to think about, not having access to medical care and not being able to obtain the things that my family needs. Now, this in no way is any medical advice. I am not telling you that these antibiotics are going to treat the coronavirus, because the truth is that most antibiotics only treat bacterial infections. They do not treat viruses. However, the reason that I feel that it's important to have them, especially with the coronavirus happening right now and, taking the world by storm. So even though these particular antibiotics may not treat the coronavirus itself, it will actually help treat other opportunistic infections that may take over and may take the opportunity that your body is actually fighting a virus and may make you sicker. And unfortunately, we have seen that a lot of people are dying from these co-infections of like pneumonia and other things that, take advantage of the fact that our immune system is weak and may attack our system when we are the most vulnerable. So it is important to have antibiotics in your stocks, even if it's not to treat the coronavirus itself. So these are the broad spectrum antibiotics that I keep in my stocks because I feel they are important and they treat multiple different infections. The first one that I keep in stock is cephalexin, and that is basically K-Flex. And I'm not telling you what these particular antibiotics treat because, as I mentioned, I am not giving you medical advice. I am only telling you which antibiotics may be good to have. The next antibiotic that I keep is the sulfamethoxazole. I think that I'm saying it right. It's sulfa for short, but regardless of how you say it, that is actually a very important antibiotic to have in our stocks. The next one I would say would be dicloxacillin, and I have a couple of bottles of those, and I've just been able to obtain them, from here to there. Another antibiotic that I feel is super important is amoxicillin. It's such a great broad spectrum antibiotic that is just great to have in your medical preps. And the other two antibiotics that I feel are important to have is Cipro and doxycycline. Now, I'm not showing those to you here because those are actually in my other medical prep stash, so I don't have those here, but I do have them among my medical preps, and I do believe that it's important to have those as well. Now, having these broad sets of antibiotics, you're able to treat multiple infections, multiple bacterial infections with just the one antibiotic. So now that we talked about the important antibiotics to stock, let's get into how to obtain them. Now, there's some ways that are legal and there's some ways that are not so legal to get antibiotics. And believe me, people are taking antibiotics left and right for different things. And unfortunately, it can lead to antibiotic resistance. So we shouldn't just be taking random antibiotics whenever we feel we need them without a proper doctor's diagnosis. However, if it were SHTF and I did feel that I needed to get some antibiotics to my family for whatever reason, the first way that you can obtain an antibiotic, of course, is with a prescription. And no shit, Sherlock. Right? The other way to get an actual prescription and not have to see a provider physically is to do it online. It does usually require for you to do a video or a phone consultation. However, you can explain your symptoms to the doctor, maybe send them some pictures of, of your illness and, have them prescribe you an actual prescription for antibiotics via online. You will have to pay for the consultation and you will have to pay for the prescription. And of course, it all depends on the insurance. However, if I could get a prescription that way, I would definitely not mind paying a little bit of extra cash, knowing that I'm going to be able to obtain some antibiotics for my stocks. And if it costs me a little bit of more money for me to do that now, then I will do that, because in SHTF, how much are antibiotics going to really cost? I'm just saying. So do you rather pay for them now or pay for them later? I would think now. Another way that I have personally gotten antibiotics, and I am in no way condoning you to do this. However, it is a proven way of getting an extra course of antibiotics. And that's just simply telling your provider that you lost them. For the past 15 years, I've been working with doctors, and there is not one doctor that has not told me that one of their patients has not lost a prescription. Now, you are not losing narcotics. You're losing an antibiotic course. So, providers are more likely to be willing to rewrite you a prescription for a course of antibiotics, of course, than they would be open to, re-prescribing you, some narcotics. So it doesn't raise up such a big flag that you say you lost some antibiotics and some ibuprofen, then it would if you were to say, hey, I lost the whole bottle of Norco or some Oxy and I need you to refill them. Yeah, right. And it's not going to cost the provider any money for them to write you another prescription and send it over to the pharmacy. It's only going to cost you a little bit of extra money because probably, depending on your insurance, you might have to pay for it out of pocket. And if you're willing to do that, then, the provider doesn't mind. Like I said, it's not narcotics. It's, it's an antibiotic and, some ibuprofen. So now the only thing about telling your provider that you lost a prescription is making sure that you don't do it very frequently or you don't do it with the same provider. Just making up a quick reason as to why you no longer have them and making sure that it's a little convincing. It's not like my dog ate them and Now, another way that I have heard of people getting antibiotics is through flea markets. And I believe they just talk to people who are either, selling health pills, weight loss pills, those types of things. They clearly have a connection to a pharmaceutical company that is helping them obtain these pills somehow. Just asking them hey, if your connection or do you know where you purchase from would sell you some antibiotics so that I could purchase them from you, and it's very different, of course, if you just walk up to some random stranger and say, hey, do you sell antibiotics? It sounds kind of creepy. I'm just saying, it's like you're trying to ask for drugs. But if it is someone that you frequent, that's a great source for you to ask. Just how much can they get for you realistically? And, perhaps you can even obtain some bottles like this one. So, yeah. Not to say that these people aren't going to say no. You're probably going to get a lot of no's before you get a yes, but also making sure you know who you're asking and how you're asking it. It's all in the way you ask. Hey, I've been trying to get a hold of some antibiotics and, going to the doctor is just so freaking expensive. I was just wondering if I could shoot you the $50 and you can get me order me a bottle among your stock. And it could be as easy as that. And they may say yes, they may say no, but you won't know unless you ask. Another way to get antibiotics is to get in close with whoever your local pharmacy is. Now, we all may know someone who works at the pharmacy. Now, whether it's a family member or a friend, or a friend of a friend, somebody works at the pharmacy. And no shade, but their stuff gets, damaged and written off all the time. Just saying. And so if an extra bottle of K-Flex, got damaged in a shipment or something that they're already writing off, it may be a great place for you, to talk to them, especially if it's someone a friend of a friend, that they're willing, to sell you a bottle that they've written off or that, perhaps had recently expired. Now, they do toss all of those items. They biohazard them and they get rid of them. And, not all of the pills are bad. Not all of them have gone bad. And I know some of you guys are gonna say okay, well, what if they're damaged or what if they're expired and you still take them? Like I said, I'm not giving any medical advice here. However, many providers have told me themselves that antibiotics, yes, they do decrease in, efficiency and efficacy. after the expiration date, but that most antibiotics are good for at least another 6 months, as long as they have been, sealed and they're still closed and they're still in their packaging, that they are still, good to take. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not giving away any medical advice, and I'm not telling you to take old antibiotics. However, if you were in an SHTF situation, do you think that you would care if they were expired by 3 months or 2 months and take them? Now, I would take them personally, and I understand, they're not as effective, but I would rather try than not. And I would rather have them than not have them. Now, asking somebody at a pharmacy if they'd be willing to do you a solid and, you'd pay them for it, I'm telling you, a lot of the times people don't mind just shooting you a bottle. It's not narcotics like I mentioned before. It's some antibiotics. And I get it. People don't want to get in trouble. People don't want to contribute or in some way it become, their issue if you in the future have an issue, and if, people build antibiotic resistances. But the truth is that most people would be willing, to take that $50 for a bottle than not. And that's just the reality of things. And that's just in the society that we work in. And that may not be the most legal way of obtaining, some antibiotics or any medication whatsoever. However, it's being done all over the world, left and right. And, you could be that person. And if it helps in the future to save one of our family members' lives, I think it's a little worth it to try to obtain them ourselves. Another way to obtain antibiotics, and even though it's not the most legal way to obtain it, is to obtain them on the streets. Honestly, you can buy anything on the street. Anything. You really can. And unfortunately, I know a lot of people are not willing, to talk to people who are selling drugs or selling prescription drugs, to use recreationally. However, if you really wanted to get some antibiotics without having to deal with the system, that's the way you get them. You pay someone. You pay someone who already has a connection of getting the, antibiotics, and you pay them. And it's not the most legit way, and it's not the most, secure way of obtaining antibiotics. But if they're sealed and they're closed up and they have the lots and they have the expiration and the brand names on them, I mean, like I said, I don't condone it, and I don't condone getting things, that may not be as reliable. I would definitely shoot for getting a prescription first. I would definitely shoot for, talking to a pharmacist first. I would definitely shoot for, even going towards buying fish antibiotics first. And that's another thing that people have suggested in the past, is to use fish antibiotics. And I've looked into them myself. However, I am personally not really sure. For me, it's not something that I have started doing. And I can't, say whether it's the same thing. Most people say it's the same antibiotics. I'm only telling you legit ways that you can get things that are designed and created for human consumption, not for, animals. Now, it may be the exact same antibiotic, and you guys may be right that fish antibiotics are, the same thing, and we can take them, and your guys are probably right. However, I don't know that, so I am not going to tell any of you guys that that's the truth, because I don't know that. But that is another way. You can try fish antibiotics and purchase them at your local Walmart without a prescription, Target, a pet food store, just like, your local pet shop. They have antibiotics in the shelves, and you can purchase them without a prescription. It's just, it's up to you. Just like, if you're willing to trust somebody on the street to get you some antibiotics, if you're willing to trust it, and if you're willing to trust that, the fish antibiotics are going to work for you, or the street antibiotics are going to work for you, that's really your own decision to make. Now, like I said, these are not narcotics, people. These are antibiotics. And I know they can lead to antibiotic resistance if they're taken inappropriately or too many, or, I know that. However, I'm not going to be taking them irresponsibly. And I know that a lot of you who are out there and are, preparing for an emergency are only stocking them for a rainy day. And that's what we're doing here, is helping each other get stocked and, get prepared from when shit hits the fan. And it's just so scary with everything happening with the coronavirus and seeing everything that's happening in China right now. Like, it's scary to think about how easy our hospitals can fill up to capacity. And, when are they going to start turning people away? And what if you have a legit emergency or a legit cut, an infection, a bacterial infection that requires these medications and you can't get them? It's very important to have on hand. And regardless if they're not treating the coronavirus itself, they are important to have in our preps. And I hope that this video has helped you obtain them for yourself in the future. If you have any questions or any comments in regards to this video, definitely leave them down. I love to talk to you guys there. I learned so much from you guys there. And if you like videos like this, make sure that you give the video a thumbs up so I know that these are topics that you guys are interested in. So if you want to see more videos like this on my channel, make sure that you subscribe and also hit the notification bell so that you can know when there's a new video posted. And I'll see you in the next one.